This is False Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler. I'm joined today by a man who is not doing what Ben Folds did the day after Christmas because he respects women and they're not nothing. Potentially rocking the suburbs right now, having all sorts of alcohol. Not right now, but has in the past.
Yes, yes.
Cody Williams, content director, fansided.com. How the hell are you?
Yeah, my 7:30 a.m. beer days have since passed. Those don't exist anymore. Once you get past 30, you're asking for a terrible time. But I'm doing good, man. Had a good Christmas. Hope you did too. But how you doing?
Pretty good. Good Christmas. Body is shot. Slept for 14 hours.
Hey, dude, that means you're sharp. You're so sharp this morning. It's crazy.
I mean, maybe that's the pain on the side of my hip right now, but either way, that's fine. Yeah. 7:30 a.m. beers. That's what you do when you're tailgating for like Georgia, Tennessee, thinking you're
Yeah,
going to make the playoff or the national championship under Mark Richt, and you lose a week later to Georgia Tech.
it would be like that as we feel.
Yeah, we're going to be saying that a bunch this morning, the day after Christmas. Yeah, this will be more college football centric as opposed to the Christmas episode, which was like fun. So we got this one. We're going to have our preview of the playoffs, national quarterfinals on Monday, and then we're going to be doing Three Yards to Cloud of Punt after Georgia Notre Dame, the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day at like midnight, and it's going to be the longest day of my life. So it's going to be great.
It's gonna be a long one for you, man. I will be back in New Mexico, so it'll actually be not nearly as long for me. And I just want to give you your props for doing this on the East Coast because I may never come back because this is brutal.
It's it'd be like
It'd be like
that.
that.
Obviously, we have false started a little bit, and we're gonna move on to our first topic of the day, which is playoffs. Are you kidding me? We're gonna power rank the remaining eight college football playoff teams. So every home team advanced in the first round. So it's essentially chalk. So it's in terms of overall seeding, it's number one, Oregon, number two, Georgia, number three, Boise State, number four, Arizona State, number five, Texas, number six, Penn State, number seven, Notre Dame, and number eight, Ohio State.
Mhm.
I wrote about this over the weekend a little bit of how I kind of decided to power rank them. I think this is pretty straightforward. Let's start at eight. I think we both have the same team at eight. That'd be Boise State.
It is Boise State. And I will go ahead and just preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that I did not write any of this down. We have another segment coming up that I spent way too much time on and completely forgot to power rank these teams. So this is all off the top of the dome. We're freestyling today, but I would have Boise State at eight, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they've got a few good players. They seem to be well coached and everything, but again, they lack the depth. The play in the group of five at this stage, it does matter. So they have to play flawless football 3 games in a row to do it, and that's mathematically impossible. So that's why
Yeah.
Boise State's at eight. They could beat Penn State. I mean, I'm not ruling that out, but
No, yeah.
like,
I mean, all eight teams that are remaining, like it's not out of the question they could win a game. Like that's not. I think that's one thing that I was noticing, like just thinking through the eight teams, is that like they are like they're not going. They're not just pushovers. They're not like they don't. It's not that they don't belong. It's just there are levels to this thing, and like one of the things I think I was thinking about when it comes to Boise State the other day, Maddox Madsen has played a lot better down the stretch. The defense has played a lot better down the stretch. But when you get up against a higher level of competition, how confident are you really that that's going to continue? Especially when we just watch someone like Nico Iamaleava. I've been working on it.
it's getting better. I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
know, we're getting there. Little incremental progress, but we watch someone with him who, with his pedigree, with his talent, which Maddox Madsen frankly does not have, but he had been playing better towards the end of the year, and then he got into the big moment and he did not play well. He, quite frankly, struggled really badly against Ohio State. So what's going to happen to Maddox Madsen in that moment when he has a worse offensive line in front of him, when he has less talent and pedigree behind him? I have a hard time getting there, especially against a Penn State defense that is not going to be kind to him. I can assure you.
No, this is just a really tough matchup for Boise State. I feel like the biggest discrepancy between coaches and dudes is in this game. Penn State
Yes.
has so many good coaches and so many dudes, and Boise State has Ash Agenti, Maddox Madsen, Spencer Danielson, and Dirk Cutter, and that's about it.
Yeah. There's a reason they're in the playoff, and it's because they have that. But that's only going to take you but so far.
Okay, so we got Boise State at eight. Number seven, against my relationship, it's Arizona State. That's who I have at seven right now. They have they're very borderline if they could win the whole thing. I think they could win maybe one or two playoff games. I think they could beat Texas. I mean, I'm rooting for it, but like I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
They have the ability to win convincingly. They've got a really strong offense, multifaceted, versatile. Defense seems opportunistic, but like they may have to play a shootout every time there, and that's a lot of pressure to put on a redshirt freshman quarterback, Sam
Mhm.
Levitt.
No, I have Arizona State at seven as well. And I think this is a game where I'm really looking at the Jordan Tyson injury in terms of their matchup with Texas. And like I'm long term, but Texas is a good example of it. But Arizona State is more talented than Boise, but they're still not as talented as a Texas, as a Georgia, as a Penn State, as all these, heavy hitters that we still have remaining in the playoff. And the difference makers can make a difference. Like Cam Scatabo can make a difference. Jordan Tyson could have made a difference, but the fact that he's not playing in this game, Arizona State does not have like a deep array of weapons. Kenny Dillingham's working on it in the portal, and it's go. I think this is going to be sustainable for Arizona State, which I think is a good thing for the Sun Devils and Tempe. But when you're lacking that difference maker in the passing game, especially with a redshirt freshman quarterback, I have my biggest concern is that Arizona State is going to be a little one-dimensional, and when you're up against teams that can out-talent you, that one-dimensionality is going to hurt you.
Well, it basically has teams who've been there, done that before, have the ability to game plan and say, if we just take away this part of the other team's game, then we got them because there's not really an opportunity for them to adapt. I understand that Kenny D is really hitting the portal. They got Udo coming in from Army,
Mhm.
complete lifestyle change, but it's all about football for him now.
Yes, sir. I mean, there's not a bigger contrast in college football than what he's doing this offseason.
I mean, it would be like going from like Stanford to Mississippi State, which KJ Costello did.
Shouts to KJ Costello.
Hopefully, it works out better for Udo there anyway. But yeah, it's very clearly 8-7 with Boise State and Arizona State, but that's not to discredit them. That's not to downplay the season they had. That's not to say that they can't get a win here. But
Mhm.
like the ability for them to win three, even after having the first round bye, seems highly unlikely. But that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they earned their spot. They were one of the hottest teams in the country. And like I'm with you. I think they put up a good fight against Texas. Like I don't think it's going to be a pushover. I think I trust this coaching staff a little too much for me to think that's going to be the case. But I do think that when push comes to shove, it's really hard to get there that they're going to win a national championship.
100%. And then there's a quantum leap up there to number six, like six through six, 1 to 6, like they all could conceivably do it.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how I sorted mine out. At number six, I have Notre Dame. I feel
Okay.
that having to beat Georgia, Penn State, and then Oregon or Texas, somebody like that in a row after having beaten Indiana, you've already seen the injuries happen. They lost their starting defensive tackle. That's going to be an issue versus a ground centric team like Georgia. If
Yeah.
Georgia doesn't get them, Penn State will get them. It's kind of
Mhm.
this Boise State could get him in that regard too. It just
Yeah.
seems like unless Xavier Watts is like plays his way back into the first round, and Riley Leonard plays flawlessly. I also questioned the passing attack for Notre Dame as well versus really skilled secondaries and teams that are well coached defensively, like a Georgia, like a Penn State, like a Texas, can
Mhm.
really hone in and make them one dimensional. So while I think Notre Dame could absolutely win a national title, I feel like there's more challenges being thrown their way than anywhere else. That's why I had them at six.
Yeah, we're in lockstep thus far because I also have Notre Dame at six. And for a lot of the reasons you said, I also look at that Indiana game and their defense dominated Indiana, but you're not going to be able to do that against a lot of the other teams that are still remaining in this. Like that, especially without Riley Mills, their defensive tackle that they lost, an experienced guy, a leader up front. You're going to have a hard time. The matchup against Georgia looks a lot trickier, especially with Gunner Stockton being the quarterback, because it's going to be even more ground centric. You're going to have the quarterback run game to contend with. So, like, I think that that's a weirdly bad matchup with when you're starting to lose part of your run defense. But I also look at the Indiana game, and this isn't a slight to Indiana's defense, who's been one of the best in the country, but outside of like a couple explosive plays from Jeremiah Love, that Notre Dame offense wasn't consistent. They weren't moving the ball very consistently in that game. They didn't really pull away, and that's why the final scoreline looked close when Indiana started doing stuff in garbage time. But I have a hard time seeing that that's going to get better as the competition gets better.
Precisely. I also think it's like Riley Leonard's going to have to win these games with his arm. Maybe him and Denbrock can do that. I mean, Georgia secondary will give up points and stuff
Yeah,
like that too. But I also kind of feel with them going with Stockton, it shortens the game. It's going to be more ground centric. It's going to be
yeah,
a more ball control, time of possession, really in line with what Kirby Smart wants to do and everything like that. So you take the ball out of the hands of Leonard, that prevents Notre Dame from being able to score points. So they have the talent to do it. They are getting a little banged up. The path is much harder than others out there. So that's why I think we've got them at 6.
yeah, 100%.
Who do you have at 5?
So at 5, I have Ohio State, and a lot of this comes down to path because they still have the most brutal path. Like Tennessee, yes, they made light work of them. I have a really hard time seeing them making light work of Oregon. I have a really hard time seeing them making light work of Texas. And that's just to get to the national championship game. You still have to play whoever comes out of the other side of the bracket to win a national championship. I will say the one thing that I have been mulling over from the Ohio State victory over Tennessee was Chip Kelly realized he has the best wide receiver core in the country, which could be dangerous for everybody else because when you're using those guys, when you're using Jeremiah Smith, when you're using Emeka Egbuka in the way that you are, like that can be super advantageous and like that's going to be a trump card no matter what. But the path for Ohio State, I think, is the hardest that's remaining in the college football playoff right now.
I have Ohio State at 5 as well. Path hurts them considerably. I do feel that the win that they had over Tennessee was varying levels of cathartic. I think it took a lot of pressure off of Ryan Day. Obviously, they can't fire him at this point. Just keep going forward to see what happens. Next year, Will Howard played great. They actually ran the ball effectively. Receiving core is good. They've got a hell of a pass rush there with Jack Sawyer and JTT,
Mhm.
who we'll talk about here in a little bit. I have concerns about the offensive line long term. Secondary's good. I think it's good to
Yeah.
great, but I think it could be exposed. My other concern with them, besides path, is I think this is a team that is very emotionally volatile. There's a lot of
Mhm.
ups and downs with them. Like you've got Seth McLaughlin over there smoking a cigar on the sideline on a walking boot. Like
Yeah.
you gave me the 2 games, like it's like he's gonna be over for that and then not beating Michigan. Like
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like I said on I believe it was on our recap show, like Ryan Day is a front runner. And like I think the team follows that. Like when you
yes,
I hate watching this Ohio State team when they are behind the 8 ball or whenever they get put behind the sticks because you can see it's just a different team that's playing there. When things are rolling and they're out in front, like good luck because it's really hard to
yes.
stop them at that point.
They bring up a great point. I'm like, it's early, and I'm like, yeah, when they're leading, they're really hard to beat. It's essentially Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens. It's
Yeah,
the same sort of
100%.
thing. When they're behind the sticks, yeah, they're not going anywhere. And again, it comes down to path, and then you got to play Oregon, you got to play presumably Texas, and then either presumably Georgia, Penn State, maybe Notre Dame.
Hmm.
That's a lot to ask. They could absolutely win a national title. They have
100%.
probably the most talented roster out there, but the pieces don't always fit. And Lars Ulrich, he will make the pieces fit.
That's 100% Inner Sandman.
Do Brenda Lars. Brian Day's favorite song by Metallica is definitely Fade to Black.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. And that's also incidentally the name of his Just for Men color that he uses.
I was actually going to make a comment about that. It's like, I want you to line my beard up. It's faded black.
That's right.
That's amazing. So we have this. We have the same top 4, probably not in the same order. Again, I think there's a leap up here. These are the 4 teams that I think are probably have the temperament probably more to do so. Number 4 I have is Texas. I think the path is
Okay.
challenging. That's
Hmm.
that's the Arizona State's. They're going to probably beat them. It's going to be tough. Then you got to play Ohio State and Oregon. Again, another tough game. Then you got to play Georgia or Penn State. Another tough game. I think that like the pass rush, I think the secondary, I think the running game, which I saw with Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue was looking great there versus Clemson, a team that has similar levels of talent in certain perspectives, but also this wasn't Clemson's year.
Hmm.
Texas finally beat somebody who was good this year, and I applaud them for that. But it's also going to come down to like the combination of and the Sarkisian having his finger on the pulse with when to put Arch Manning in there, want to keep Quinn Ewers in there and just put Greg McElroy's brain in a blender because it's trying to make fetch happen. So I think Texas could definitely win a national title. Path hurts them, and there's some sort of I still, in a way, I kind of feel like they're still trying to figure some identity stuff out here with this, and that might hold them back.
I think all those points are well taken. I have Georgia at 4, which isn't a slight at Georgia. It really, to me, comes down to Gunner Stockton, just because I look at Gunner Stockton and like I can talk myself into, and I've done it on this program with you, like the simplification of the offense with Gunner Stockton, I think does benefit this offense. I think it benefits Mike Bobo and gets Mike Bobo out of him, like out of his own head, essentially, and gets him into a game script where he actually can call a better game that won't make Georgia fans want to pull their hair out. But at the same time, like we've seen what 2 real quarters of Gunner Stockton to this point, and like that worries me when you're going on this stage, when you're going to play a Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, when you're going to have to play against a Penn State defense in the semifinals if you were to beat Notre Dame. Like just that point, it's partially Path, partially Gunner Stockton. I think those two things worry me a little bit, but I have to have them in the top 4 because I do believe in the talent of the roster. So like I can't fully disparage what Georgia is capable of because they are absolutely talented enough to still win a national championship with a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I've had to make a minor adjustment here. I have Georgia at 3. Initially, I had them at 1. The fact that Beck's not coming back does make is there some levels of concern. We have seen teams win championships with backup quarterbacks. You know, you look at Mr. I don't play no school there with Cardell Jones, Big Nick Energy, Nick Foles. Yeah, he did it
Yeah.
too. Jeff Hostetler. It's happened before in the history of the world. They could do it. They have the path to do it, but it's again, give Georgia enough. I mean, I may be wearing a Georgia sweatshirt that may or may not have a Bloody Mary mix on it. It doesn't matter.
That just means it's seen the good things in life.
It has, it's battle tested. This isn't blood. This is Bloody Mary mix. But
That's right.
but for real though, I feel like outside of that, they should be fine. Path's good. Give them some more fuel to the fire to potentially, pull off the upset. They're getting dinged a lot by the odds, which is kind of insulting. So that's why I've got Georgia at 3. Who do you have at 3?
At 3, I have Penn State. And to me, Penn State really comes down to the idea that I still am not fully there when it comes to the offense. Like, I still think I think Drew Aller has made leaps and bounds or taken leaps and bounds this season. And I think he's a much better quarterback than what we saw. And especially in the past 2 games, we've seen, kind of the training wheels taken off a little bit. But as we get, into higher level competition, when you're not facing an SMU, when you're not in Happy Valley, frankly, like I wonder what that's going to look like against this higher level of competition. Like, you know, we were joking about it in the, Saturday recap after the first round games. Like, we're giving James Franklin and Penn State a lot of credit for losing the Big Ten championship game.
Yes, we are.
And so like, you're still 1-1 in these games where we've been super impressed by you. So like the fact that you have lost those games, I'm still not quite there. I will say one thing that Andy Kotelnicki has been able to do and has been doing effectively is kind of like unleashing tempo in a very methodical manner. Whereas like when he thinks that it's going to be an advantage for his team, when there's something that he can, kind of spam a little bit in terms of his play calling or something he can keep the defense on its heels with, he's been doing that a little more. And I think Drew Aller actually really benefits from that tempo.
100%. Yeah, I've got Penn State coming up in a little bit, I think. So yeah, okay, my 2-1 because that's where we're at this one. I've got Oregon at 2, Penn State at 1 right now. That's how it's.
Yeah.
My thought is Oregon's path's harder. I think if Georgia's banged up, that makes things very easy for Penn State. They got to beat Boise State and then either Georgia or Notre Dame, and then they'll get the more proven team between Texas, Oregon, Arizona State, Ohio State, whomever. And 2 of those games will be like, oh, we've lost. There's the revenge factor. There's an ultra motivating thing that gets Penn State to the championship. I think they've got more dudes. Oregon is probably like, well, I guess it's going to be them, but again, I still don't trust Dylan Gabriel's size versus better pass rushes.
Mhm.
I think they're well coached. I think Oregon plays well, physical. I don't know how fast they are. I think they're fast, but I guess the other thing is just like everybody else has been punched in the mouth. Everybody else has responded. I don't know. I mean, are we gonna like is their jaw made out of titanium or glass? We'll find out. And that's
Yeah.
kind of why I've got Oregon at 2, Penn State at 1.
Okay, so I have Texas at 2 and then Oregon at 1. Texas to me, I trust everything about the roster except for my boy Quinn Ewers. Like, I mean, and that's a tough place for me to be in. But I do think when you look at the Clemson game, Clemson's one of the better defenses that, Texas has faced this year. And Quinn Ewers played phenomenal in that game. I was very impressed with Quinn Ewers. And I think that what you mentioned about Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue, when you have the run game, and I think that's something that's probably hurt Quinn Ewers throughout the year, is Texas hasn't been able to run the football. And when he has that ability where, pass rushers and defensive linemen, linebackers aren't able to pin their ears back and just get after Quinn Ewers, and like also Quinn Ewers looked a little bit healthier. He was moving a little bit better in the pocket. The ankle injury doesn't seem to be bothering him at the level it was previously. So like I do think that I have a little more faith in Quinn Ewers than I did going into the playoff. And when I look at the rest of this roster, man, I think the more I've looked and thought about the Clemson game, I think a lot of defenses probably would have gotten blown out by Clemson because Clemson played a phenomenal offensive game. That's one of the best games I've seen Cade Klubnik play in his entire college football career to this point. And Clemson still won by 2 touchdowns. Texas still won by 2 touchdowns in that game. So like I'm still high on Texas. I think their ceiling, I don't even think they touched their ceiling yet. And I think that's a interesting proposition considering they played some really good football in the first round. But with Oregon, I share your concerns about Dylan Gabriel. I've been highly critical of Dylan Gabriel, but at the same time, I started, in the idea of there being levels to this, if there's a moment where I need a quarterback to make a play, I need a quarterback to, not piss down his leg, quite frankly, I trust him over Will Howard. I trust him over Gunner Stockton. I trust him over Riley Leonard. I trust him over Quinn Ewers. I probably trust Dylan Gabriel, given his experience level to this point. In those moments where it's all on you and you've got to make a play, I probably trust him a little bit more than everybody. And I think the speed element that you're talking about on offense, they definitely have it. Like when I compare them to an Ohio State, they kind of have this, they present the same matchup problems. Like, I'm not sure there's anyone in the country, anyone in this playoff that can match up with Tez Johnson. I'm not sure that in the right day, there's anyone in the country that can match up with an Evan Stewart. Like, they have those different makers. You have a multifaceted running tack. Like, Jordan James is great, but you can also go to Noah Whittington. You have a deep backfield. You have an offensive line that's now healthy and playing a lot better. You have a defensive front that can get pressure. And like, I just have a hard time looking at Oregon and not thinking that they're the favorite. But again, I want to come back to our grand conversation about this college football playoff. The margins between these teams are so thin. Like, I don't think that there's a runaway. Like, I don't have Oregon just miles ahead of the field. I think it's just like you're splitting hairs continuously to get to this point.
Well, you look at year 1 to 8. I mean, it was 3 points, like we saw it
Yeah,
earlier in the season. So between
yeah,
Oregon and Boise State,
exactly.
that's what it is.
And that's a really cool way to think about it. I like that.
And then if you were to apply like what a transitive property here, I mean, Boise State's the best team because I think what Penn State lost to Oregon by a touchdown. So
Yeah, you start translating it, it all starts to make sense.
it all makes sense. I will make the pieces fit, because it'd be like that. Let's recap our 8 and then let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah, so at 8, I have Boise State. At 7, I have Arizona State. At 6, I have Notre Dame. At 5, I have Ohio State. At 4, I have Georgia. At 3, I have Penn State. At 2, I have Texas. And then at 1, I have Oregon.
Okay, I've got the same 8 through 5 is Cody. I've got Boise State at 8, Arizona State at 7, Notre Dame at 6, Ohio State at 5. This is where it changes up at 4. 4, I've got Texas. 3, I've got Georgia. 2, I've got Oregon. 1, I've got Penn State.
Mhm. And I particularly with the top 4, man, like any order, like I think those are the clear top 4. I just don't know what order you're going to put them.
Yeah, I know. It's like initially I had Georgia at 1, and then the injury impacts it to some degree as well. But that's kind of where the next question is. I got to ask you this, Cody. Cody, do Haas or do Haas? Will Georgia be able to overcome losing Carson Beck for the season, possibly forever?
I'm gonna go do Host with 1S, despite the fact that I have them at 4, despite the fact that like I do think it hurts their chances ostensibly. Like I still have them as number 4. Like I'm not like, oh, Georgia lost Carson Beck, we're gonna put them down at 8. Like we're gonna put them down in the Boise State, Arizona State category where, I think the chances are a lot lower that you're gonna win a national championship just because like I mentioned earlier, like I think simplifying the offense there, but also the one thing that I can't get out of my mind. Georgia played harder when Gunner Stockton came into the game. They just did. Both sides of the ball in the SEC championship game. When Gunner Stockton came into that game, it found like Georgia found an extra gear. And if they continue rallying around a backup quarterback, a guy that the team seems to like I also come back to, Kirby Smart post game. He was asked, what he told Gunner Stockton before he went into the game. And he said, I didn't tell him anything. I asked the other coaches, I asked the players to talk to him, the players to get him ready. And the only thing I said to him was, all right, go out there and do it, son. And like, to me, like that shows that this team has a full belief in Gunner Stockton is going to be behind him. So like my one of the big worries whenever you have a backup quarterback is that you're going to have some sort of quit factor. Like, the team around him is going to be like, oh, we're screwed. We lost our starter. And like, I don't see that being the case. So like, I think Georgia absolutely has a chance to do this.
You bring up several great points here. It's Du Hast, 1S for me as well. Counter to what everything I said. Like, look, somebody's got to be ranked number 3 and 4 in this. Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
again, we're splitting hairs. If we would have been like Du Hast, 2S's and put him down at 7,
Yeah.
which I mean they could be the 7, they could lose by the biggest margin. That's totally within
Mhm.
play. Again, we
Yeah.
don't know. We don't know, but you bring up two really good points. I think the first one, besides that, is so I guess the second point is I think the people on the team really like him. I think people on
Mhm.
the team like Beck too. I think this team's pretty close. So
Yeah.
like they're playing pretty happy. They're playing pretty fired up for the guy. And I think that like, Stockton being like what a redshirt sophomore at this point, like he could have gone and played for Kentucky and gone forward to it like Brock Vandegrift, but he
Yeah.
stayed. And remains to be seen what's going to happen with Beck. Obviously, he's had surgery to repair his UCL. I don't think it's torn. It may be like a Spencer Strider sort of injury, sort of thing, from what I gather. I don't know if he's going to come back or turn pro. I don't know if you see anything with that, but like it's
Not yet. No, I haven't.
no. So Stockton's got an opportunity here. He's like, if I play really well, then like I'm going to be the starter next year. You've seen Georgia has not been very aggressive in the portal. I've got some
Mhm.
thoughts about that later, but yeah, if this was always Bobo's guy. This is the guy that Bobo recruited when he was at South Carolina on Will Muschamp's staff. Uh, Plays really tough, really hard. A very different type of quarterback than we've frankly ever had. DJ Shockley played a little bit like this. That's probably the
Mhm.
last quarterback who was like this a little bit more for Georgia. But it's exciting. But I also kind of feel that like you have to catch the other team by surprise.
Yeah.
The other issue is you can really only win one way with
Mhm.
him. But the thing is, your path and your talent and your coaching allows you to do that. So we'd be foolish to cross off Georgia. I think it does hurt Georgia in the sense that, like, if Carson Beck were to go just towards somebody, like,
Mhm.
that's not possible now.
Yeah, like I have a hard time seeing Gunner Stockton getting hot throwing the football. Like I really have a hard time seeing that being the case. Like it's going to be the parts lifting him up if it does, come into that. You're finding Arian Smith in, short areas but with space and like letting him make plays. Same with like a Dylan Bell, same with Dominic Lovett and those guys. Like I think it's going to be a lot of, rising tide lifts all boats type of situation if we see Gunner Stockton really go through a big passing game. But I do think that, you mentioned DJ Shockley. I think, and this is a weird comp, but like the worst versions of Stetson Bennett, like when Stetson Bennett was trying to
Yeah.
do a little too much, but Gunner Stockton has the talent, I think, that kind of makes up that gap. Like I'm not saying that negatively about Gunner Stockton when I say that. Like Stetson Bennett was a walk-on trying to do these things, whereas Gunner Stockton's a, 4 or 5 star fringe guy who's going to be able to do a little bit more with that with his talent.
I mean, Bennett could run, but Bennett could also really spin it. He was the ultimate
Yeah.
dual threat quarterback, and
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of why people are. I mean, Beck can move a little bit too. It's like Aaron Murray; they can move enough,
He
but
just
it's
doesn't look like he can move. Like he doesn't run like a fast guy, if that makes sense. Like when he runs, he looks like he's like a giraffe learning how to run for the first time.
he looks like Jeffrey going through Toys R Us aisles.
Yes, exactly. It was just Christmas, and that's part of childhood. It was Jeffrey going through there, man.
Hey man, that's a pissy shot.
That's right.
uh, Trying to think if there's anything else. Gunner getting hot. Like Gunner, he's out there just sweating. Like, I'm hot.
I mean, they are in New
HAWT.
Orleans, man. You never know. It might be December, but New Orleans, you never know. They might not. The AC might be broken. The Superdome. Who knows, man?
You also got to wonder about he'll be locked in, whereas Beck, maybe Beck goes out.
Yeah, look, Beck's gonna enjoy his time in New Orleans. I have no doubt. He's gonna be on like one of those like little like knee carts and just like and they're like, I thought you hurt your shoulder, bro, or your elbow, and he's gonna be like, oh no, I'm really hurting it. And then he's gonna hit up Snapchat.
Hits up Snapchat, and when they beat Notre Dame 31-17, he pulls out a grenade and starts drinking it.
100%. No, no doubt about it. Chase,
Has
your move, Chase McLaughlin. We've got the grenade on the sideline over here.
I guess the last part is, I guess the backup now is Jaden Rashada, who I don't think we've seen at all this year. I
Mhm.
think Puglisi's okay. Montgomery is about to enroll, so he's not there yet. And
Right.
then Puglisi I have seen him dressed out, but again, he had an injury during spring practice that kept him out. And I think Kirby wants to try and kind of protect Rashada's eligibility, which I guess he does because like you're not playing 3 games anyway. So like,
And like he lost his red shirt last year, if I'm not mistaken. So like, get him
yeah,
that red shirt year and like maintain some eligibility. That would make a lot of sense.
yeah. So, but like he can play a little bit. Obviously, he was a starter at Arizona State last year. That team was up against it, but I think that's kind of the quarterback depth chart now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, another quarterback injury, and I'll probably do Haas 2S, I'll be honest with you.
You know what, same, but in between saying do Haas, time to go back in the kitchen and get another slice of pumpkin pie.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
We're gonna put some dudes on teams, bro, from the college football playoff teams. So we're gonna work our way down from Oregon all the way down to Ohio State, and we're gonna talk about players who are going to be going pro and figure out what would be a good fit.
Hmm.
So we'll start with Oregon, number one.
Hmm.
The two players of note are Dylan Gabriel and Tez Johnson, the wide receiver. If there's anybody else you want to add, let's go from there. We've talked about Dylan Gabriel. I think him going to Seattle or San Francisco as like a second round pick would be really good. Maybe the Saints.
So I like both of those. I've actually come up with one that I think is at least intriguing to me, especially what we've seen over the past few weeks. What about him going to the Panthers and being Bryce Young's backup? A team that already has to design an offense around a smaller quarterbacks. And like one of the things I always look for with backup quarterbacks is guys who can come in and kind of, you're probably going to be able to do not going to be able to do as much with the offense, but you don't want to have to like adjust the offense and make an entirely new offense entirely for that. And like I think Dylan Gabriel and Bryce Young, they share some similarities. Bryce Young obviously has more talent, but I think that can make a lot of sense, especially with the way Bryce Young is playing now. And I expect, the Panthers to get a lot more talent around him.
Also, I think Andy Dalton's like 37 or 38. How
Yeah.
much more is he going to keep doing this? He's kind of like a year-to-year player. It seems to be working there with Dave Canellis. I think it's very important that David Tepper has like removed himself from the equation a little bit and
Yeah.
allows
It's
Dave
shocking that
Canellis.
things are going better when David Tepper just stops being a complete a-hole about everything.
He's just trusting, it's just a bunch of Daves and Dans out there. David's telling Dave and Dan Morgan to do it.
That's right.
Also, I looked at it like I was like thinking about it. Dan Morgan, yeah, I remember him playing at the U and playing for the Panthers, thinking he's
Mhm.
like a Jack Paul Posluszny looking dude. Just looks like a regular guy out there.
Just a guy, man.
Looks like Kevin Spielman.
Shouts to the pads of yesteryear for adding like 30 pounds of muscle that we thought was there.
Yes, I like that one too. With the Panthers when that makes sense. So we're kind of looking like a second round pick. He'll probably go to the Senior Bowl. We'll see what happens. Other players, Tez Johnson. Let's put him on his brother's team with the Broncos. I can't see any other reason. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have. I have the Broncos down, so we're in lockstep. And like, if I'm not mistaken, like he has a long-standing relationship with Bo Nix, and so like I think that's something that could be entirely beneficial. Like I believe, they've come up together for a long time. Like they were in high school ranks, not just college ranks. Like I think they played together at Oregon, and then they played together at in high school. And the other thing when I'm looking at this, you've looked at everything that Sean Payton has done with Bo Nix this season, and it's all been about making life easy for Bo Nix. The one thing they're missing in this offense is a real speed threat. Well, Tez Johnson could do that.
Well, it's like Tez Johnson's like what, 2, 3 years younger than his adopted brother, Bo Nix. It's something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and that would be good. If there's somebody else that could really use like an over the top kind of explosive receiver, come on down. Come to the Atlanta Falcons. That'd be
Yeah.
dope too.
100%.
It's kind of a slight redundancy of Darnell Mooney in some capacities, but like,
You're also going to be paying him like $11 million less. So that'd be cool.
yeah, yeah. Another team that needs receiving help. How about the Bengals? They could use a T Higgins
Mhm.
replacement.
I mean, like one of the fun things I think with Tez Johnson is there's not many teams in the NFL that couldn't use a Tez Johnson, like
No,
quite frankly.
no. You're getting a Tez Johnson, and you're getting a Tez Johnson.
I
You're
mean,
getting a
I
Tez
think every
Johnson.
team would like if there were 32 Tez Johnsons, like I think every team would be quite happy with that.
It'd be happier than having a U2 showing up on your iPod.
Yes, correct.
That was a great move there, Tim Cook. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Anybody else from Oregon you think that we need to talk about draft wise?
Not that like comes to mind. Like I don't think there's anyone that's going to rip headlines, but like you look in the trenches, and I think there's a lot of guys that could potentially, help teams, but I don't think it's going to be anyone that's going to be on, like a Will Campbell level in terms of tackles or a Mason Graham level in terms of defensive tackles. Like there's no one that's of that caliber that's going to be a force multiplier the minute they walk in the door.
What about a Betcher? Is he draft eligible?
I don't actually know if Betcher's draftable. Let me dive into the goodies.
That's how you would say it, right? Isn't it?
I
I don't
believe
know.
so.
So
I
I
mean,
would,
I'm not the pronunciation guy here. We know
and I
this.
don't do pronunciation, geography, or math. I just talk. I love
That's
this.
right.
I would say like if he is out there, put him on like Paul Posluszny team. Just put him out there with the Cowboy collar. Put him with the Cowboys.
I mean, you're not gonna find many complaints from me. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that he's draft eligible, so we might have to wait a little
You know what?
bit.
That's fine. Keep that Cowboy color out there. Become a dude. So let's move on to Georgia here. Georgia's got a few more guys here. So Beck's injured. He may come back. I saw he had like a fifth round grade. That's a lot. That's a little harsh.
Yeah.
Um, um, I think he does turn pro. I think it's
Okay.
just like he's done enough. I think the opportunity to continue to make money would be in his favor and everything like that. Plus, I don't think he wants to transfer. I think he's just like, I'm just going to play for Georgia or nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, so if he does turn pro, I would be venture to guess like he'll be rehabbing. He'll probably be like a top 60 pick or something like that. You go to a team that is in a transitional period. Again, I think he's going to follow Todd Monken wherever he gets a job.
I mean, wouldn't hate it. That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
You-
Like Todd Monken and Carson Beck look pretty damn good together.
Honestly, they go to Jacksonville and then they basically get rid of Trevor Lawrence after next year because it's like, dude, you're soft. We're gonna put in a guy who's the real Duval man.
100%. Duval coursing through our veins in here.
Or you have him up there with matching arm sleeves with Tyson Bagent backing up Caleb Williams, who I think his teammates hate Caleb Williams. I think they hate him.
I think like some certain sects of Bears fans hate Caleb Williams. Like, dude wore a Santa hat to a press conference, and you'd have thought he like dropped a nuke on some country.
Dude, like I said this on the Blog and Dirty podcast. I'm like, my fears of him being the next Jeff George are starting to become realized.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I do want to see him with a functional coaching staff because that has not been the case. A functional offensive line would also be cool, but like we need to have some functionality.
Yeah, if you could be like, there's opportunities to make the best of this. You can be Cam Newton. I mean, you could be Carson Palmer, but like at that
Yeah.
point, yeah, Bears, man. Ben Johnson, they tarred feather him. Oh, I didn't know it was you. We know you're the coach. We thought you were breaking into Hallis Hall.
God. Yeah, not the most desirable job if I was a head coaching candidate.
Yeah, so Carson Beck just put him on Todd Monken's team. That's
Yeah.
the gist of that. I think the other two guys we got to talk about are Malachi Starks and Jalen Walker.
Hmm.
Probably if there's anybody else you had on there, or are those kind of year three?
Michael Williams is the other
Michael
one.
Williams
Just
too.
and he Michael Williams is one of the most interesting players in the draft to me because like I don't think he's realized his potential quite yet, but like his potential's enormous, dude. It's like he could be a game changer if you can harness what he has, but we just haven't seen that fully harnessed at Georgia to this point. We've had moments for sure, but we have not had full seasons.
Okay, so between those three, between Williams, Starks, and Walker, which one of them is most likely to play for the Falcons next year?
I would probably say Jalen Walker. I think Jalen Walker makes the most sense. I think Jalen Walker, to me, he kind of fits the mold of what we saw with Michael Parsons coming out of Penn State, where he can play multiple positions and it's just kind of you fit him where he can go best. Obviously, with Atlanta, that's going to be off the edge. I think he's actually a little bit better as an edge rusher than he is as a stand-up linebacker. And so you get him in there and you just get someone who has the physical tools to pin their ears back and just go, which Atlanta hasn't had in not in my memory, quite frankly.
It's a little better now, like, but they definitely need some guys
They
more versatile here.
It's
Yeah.
better now, but they still don't have that level of juice, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. So looking across the board, do we have Starks, Walker, and Williams all as like first round players?
Starks is interesting just because he's a safety. And like that's really what it comes down to. And like it's not a an indictment of him as a caliber of player. Teams just were really hesitant to draft safeties in the first round. And that like he probably has a first round grade. Whether or not he goes in the first round remains to be seen.
So where else would you want to put these guys? Michael Williams. Let's start with him. That seems like team that needs a pass rusher, team that needs some juice. Trying to think
I
what would
said the
be.
Jets. I had the Jets for Michael Williams because you're going to lose Hassan Reddick this offseason. Like after the contract dispute, like it's very clear that they don't want to like, give him a long-term contract. So I have a hard time seeing the Jets being the ones that do that. And once you get past him, the depth on the edge is not exactly what you're looking for. The juice on the edge is not exactly what you're looking for. So I think the Jets would make a lot of sense there. And the Jets feel like the type of team that are, even with a new regime that's going to be coming in, like just organizationally with the Johnsons, they feel like the type of team that would be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to think. Jets is good. I feel like they're going to go defense pretty
Hmm.
heavily with that first round pick. Trying to think who else would be a good like Malachi. Okay, Malachi Starks. For whatever reason, I think the Bengals. I think they need some guy in the back there. Like Lou Anarumo is probably going to keep his job.
Yeah.
Just a guy that makes plays. I think that fits with the Bengals.
I also had the Bengals because I look at the Bengals and you did nothing to replace a Jesse Bates. You did nothing to replace some of the losses you've had in the secondary, in typical Bengals fashion. And Malachi Starks is the type of guy that can step into that and immediately like change that because I think a lot of the success that Lou Anarumo had was because of the faith he had in that safety group. And now he's trying to have that same faith and he doesn't have the guys to be able to pull it off.
100%. And then Tate Ratledge, you're going to the Titans because you're the next Taylor Lewan.
100%. Gotta be.
Got to be 100%. So that's kind of how we got with Georgia. Let's move on to Boise State, which is Ashton Jeanty mostly. I don't think there's anybody else. So Ashton Jeanty.
So I do not have him on the Cowboys. I'm actually off the Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys train because the Cowboys need a lot more things than they need a running back. And so if we're taking a first round pick, which Ashton Jeanty is going to go in the first round, I don't want it to be a running back. Please do not do that. It's entirely possible that it is that, and I wouldn't like be upset, but like I just don't think so. I'm looking at the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, and I think
Yeah,
that that's one that makes a lot of sense. James Conner is still great right now, but he is getting a little bit older. And when the Cardinals are at their best, Kyler is good, but it's because James Conner is moving the ball, and Ashton Jeanty seems like that type of workhorse that can continue doing that.
I like that a lot. I'm sticking out the NFC West of mine. Can put him on the 49ers and everything like that. So
Mm.
that'd be great as well. Yes.
Hey, Papa Bueller.
Hey, Dad. Is that Cody?
I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan of yours.
Merry Christmas. This is good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yesterday, while getting ready for Christmas, the carafe broke, so we had to run out to like Walmart and buy a new carafe. So
Oh
yeah.
no, that's tough.
Wow. Okay. But I talked about putting I think I want to put Ash Jitty on the 49ers
Hmm. I think it makes a
because
lot of sense. I mean, McCaffrey, honestly, we don't know at this point. Like this year was the year from hell with injuries, and with someone who has the workload and the mileage that he does, like that's tough.
yeah, and also I think the fact that like the Shanahan team is only as good as their running back. It could be, it could be Arian Foster, it could be Devontae Freeman, it could be, Christian McCaffrey. I'm trying to think who else. Who do you have? He had some guy at the Browns. Doesn't matter, or the Washington, but like it's a ground centric offense and everything like that. I think if you get a running back because a workhorse
Hmm.
like Ashton Jitsi, maybe you get Kirk Cousins to come in. Maybe you can bounce back and have the season you expect. But yeah, 49ers.
I mean, I like the idea of because Ashton Jeanty is capable as a pass catcher, but to at least like save him some, like pairing him and Isaac Guerrero, who they drafted last year in the late
Yeah.
rounds, like that's if you're looking at the future running back, if you do want to move on from CMC, like that's a tandem I can absolutely get behind that I think Kyle Shanahan would also like to, have in his arsenal.
Yeah, you're staying out west, Ashton, and that's what we're doing. Let's move on to the Arizona State Sun Devils. I think the big name is a Scatterview, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And that's what I want on the Cowboys, dude. I
Yeah.
just I want it so badly.
Put him on the Cowboys. I think that's great. Where else? Cowboys would be great. Let's put him somewhere a little more blue collar too, just to have a counter. Let's put him on the would be a great fit. Honestly, put him on the Titans. Just have him going.
Honestly, yeah, because like Tony Pollard, I don't believe is signed beyond this year. You have Tajay Spears, who seems like more of a change of pace back than a workhorse. So like, get Scatabo in there. Like, you had. I'm not saying that Cam Scatabo is Derrick Henry, but look at the success you had when Derrick Henry was carrying the offense, and try to replicate that.
I know we've had dogs come on the podcast of our parents. This
I
is
know that's a new one. I'm excited.
all right. Speaking of excited, I think you're excited with the next one. Let's go with Texas.
Mm,
We got what? Kelvin Banks, and we got Quinn Ewers, and
yeah.
who else we got to touch on?
You can talk about Isaiah Bond, who is kind of like the Tez Johnson you have at home. Like hasn't quite done it to the level that he has, but has that same level of juice, has that same level of enticing speed, gonna tear up the combine, is gonna do a lot of things in that regard. So like you kind of look there. I don't believe a lot of the members of the secondary are eligible yet. Same with a lot of the defensive line group, because obviously they had to replace a lot last year. Trey Moore is probably going to be like a third or fourth round pick, but there's not the same level of this year's draft talent. There's going to be highly drafted players that come in the future, but just not quite yet.
Okay, let's go to Banks. I think Banks is like the biggest name. I think he's a top 10 pick for
Mhm.
sure. It's like who doesn't need a quarterback, but who needs to protect him? I think the Patriots is a pretty good fit for that.
The Patriots and the Bears are the two that I have circled for him. And
Yeah.
like for the Patriots, it really comes down to, at least to me, do you have a chance to draft Travis Hunter or do you not? And if you don't, then you pivot to Kelvin Banks. If you do, you take Travis Hunter because the idea of Drake May throwing to Travis Hunter is really hard to pass up if you're the Patriots because they also have zero wide receiver help. The Bears, to me, it's obvious offensive linemen because you've done a piss poor job of protecting Caleb Williams. You still have DJ Moore, you have Rima Dunze. Like you're going to lose Keenan Allen, but that's fine. You still have two very good wide receivers, young wide receivers that you can throw to, but you can't throw to him if Caleb Williams is not protected.
Ryan Poles still work there. God, what an idiot.
Yeah, somehow.
Oh man. Who's the other tackle of notice? Is it Campbell? It's the other one.
Yeah, those are the top two. Although there's a lot of guys coming up that are, I think, really gaining a lot of love with the draft community. Wyatt Milliam out of West Virginia was one of the best tackles in the country this year. He's gone from like a fourth round pick to a first round pick, pretty much probably going to be in the back half of that. So this is a tough one. Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. Big dude, moves well for his size, but I mean it's definitely at the top, Kelvin Banks and Will Campbell, and then a drop off to everyone else.
The last guy you said, that sounds like a chief.
Yeah, 100%. There's no question about it. Just keep throwing it at the wall until it sticks.
Pretty much. There goes Izzy and my brother-in-law walk. She's out there. Yeah, it's a good for a 8:30 p time. So that's
Same, brother.
dogs have people have tea times, dogs have P times, and this is a false start. So I like Kelvin Banks to pretty much either the Patriots or Bears. Quinn Ewers, I'm all over the place. I think he's still a first round pick. I think like he's probably like QB 3 or 4 here at this point, depending on what Milrow does.
Mhm.
I think it'll be Board and Sanders be the first two off the board. The team that I'm curious to see, who do you think is the right team for Quinn Ewers?
I'm gonna be a dick about this, quite frankly. The Oregon Ducks is who I think the right team is for Quinn Ewers. You're gonna lose Dylan Gabriel. Are you sure Dante Moore's ready? I think Quinn Ewers needs another year. I think Quinn Ewers is going to play in college football next year, and it's going to be somewhere other than Texas because as of right now, I think his earning potential and his NFL draft potential is higher if he comes back for 2025 and plays college football. And there's no better place, I think, for him to raise his draft stock and to really improve where he's going to be going, potentially be QB1, and then if he goes to Oregon.
Yeah, you go back to the point where like is the best you're gonna do like the LA Rams and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and again, they're gonna take somebody of note, like Milrow,
Mhm.
Ewers, whomever. That's kind of where I feel he could conceivably go. If I'm gonna add another team, again, it's like I'm honestly put him on the Colts, get rid of Anthony Richardson. He sucks.
He's not good. But hey, no, I don't see that happening because they're married to it for whatever reason.
Yes, and they are, they're just like they're married to Chris Ballard. The rivalry is back on.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Chris.
Okay, idiot. I guess the cold up there in Wisconsin froze your brain.
Yeah, it seems like it.
It'd be like that. Let's move on to Penn State. So we've got Abdul Carter is the biggest name of note. Who else is up there with Penn State?
I think you've got Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. Those are two attractive running backs that I think are going to play for a long time in the NFL. I don't know how featured they're going to be, but I think that's the case. Obviously, Drew Aller's coming back. You don't really have any wide receiver talent of note. There's a few DBs, but I mean, to me, it's a conversation of Abdul Carter and everyone else. Like Abdul Carter is my favorite player in this draft. And I'm not going to hide that throughout this entire process. But beyond Travis Hunter,
Right.
this is a non-Travis Hunter category.
Is Tyler Warren draft eligible?
I am actually not sure. I think so, but I'm not sure. Let me just give that a quick Google. Is Tyler Warren draft?
Draft eligible.
It does seem he is draft eligible. So, I mean, yeah, Tyler Warren. Okay, we'll talk about Tyler Warren too, because that's obviously someone who could be quite valuable.
Okay, so the most obvious place that Abdul Carter would go is the Titans. That's the one that I've been like, he's been mocked to over and over again. I think the Browns would be a good fit too.
Yeah, pairing him with Myles Garrett, good God, look out, everyone else.
You got anybody else for him, or is that kind of where you're leaning?
I also had the Panthers, just depending on how, and like
Yeah.
that's a very like how the draft board falls. But you kind of hit the reset button trading Brian Burns this past offseason, and so getting Abdul Carter in there. I mean, like Abdul Carter is the type of like is a Myles Garrett level of talent, in my opinion. In terms like he doesn't have that same level of freakishness in terms of the size with the speed, but in terms of the speed, the strength, and his ability to be a versatile pass rusher, he has that in droves. I think he's going to come in day one and make a big impact. And the Panthers don't have that player on defense. The Panthers don't have a playmaker on defense, quite frankly, in my opinion, right now. So, like, I look at Abdul Carter and, like, that's a cornerstone that you can put on that defense and really change things moving forward.
Yeah, whenever the Panthers are a good team, they have a great defensive player. It could
Mhm.
be Luke Kuechly. It could be Sam Mills. It could be Kevin Green for like that 1 year. It could be Julius Peppers.
Mhm.
And you think Dan Morgan, former linebacker, is like gonna like pass on him? No.
No,
No,
100%. No,
no,
no
he's
shot. No shot.
no, and he's gonna be the division for a decade. I'm gonna hate myself. So yeah, that's great. As far as Allen and Singleton, well, I feel like one of them is gonna go to the Browns because I feel Nick Chubb
Mhm.
insurance is kind of
Yeah, I
how I'm
like that.
feeling. And kind of feel like the Vikings could use a running back too.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones getting up there a little bit, and like you were piecemealing it together behind him with like your Cam Akerses and your Ty Chandlers at points this year. So like, yeah, you could definitely use some insurance if you're the Vikings, and as you're going to be, uh, potentially likely inserting JJ McCarthy into the starting quarterback role to replace Sam Darnold. Not a guarantee at this point, but the likelier possibility at this point. You want to have a strong running game, and so some Aaron Jones insurance definitely wouldn't hurt.
I can't believe the Vikings are going to do it. I'm like, you're making a huge mistake. I guess like we're seeing a better version of JJ McCarthy and Drew Aller already.
Yeah, I mean it's true, but I also I'm willing to withhold judgment a little bit just because I've watched Bo Nix succeed with good head coach in a good situation. So who's to say JJ McCarthy can't do the same?
That's true, but that. And then Tyler Warren, plays that I think that could really use a safety valve. I mean, I don't know where they're picking again, but the Patriots could probably use a guy like that.
Yeah, like early second round, like I could see
Yeah,
that.
I could see that. Who else really needs a pass catcher, tight end? Um,
I mean, like
maybe Tech,
I could see
maybe
the
Texans,
Cowboys. Yeah, Texans.
Cowboys.
Ooh, Texans would be a good one. You have, and honestly, it's ironic because the Texans are using former Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz in that role right now. That's an upgrade from Dalton Schultz. It's an upgrade from a Jake Ferguson in Dallas. Like, I think those type of guys could be really viable in those situations. One that's going to get tossed around that I don't agree with, but the Chiefs, Travis Kelce, we don't know what his future looks like. And Tyler Warren could be that versatile weapon that Travis Kelce's been for so long. So that's one that's going to get thrown around that I feel like we'd be remiss not to mention.
Also, come on down. Your head's in the game as opposed to Pitts. What the hell is that?
Yeah, brother. I don't know if you saw Ian Hartitz of Fantasy Lives tweet about it. He was like, Michael Penix Jr. with a horrible interception. His big mistake was thinking that Kyle Pitts could catch the ball. He'll learn.
So many guys drop Penix's passes because they're not used to the ball coming in that hot.
Yeah, I mean, they've had Kirk Cousins throwing ducks for 16 or for 15 games.
I just feel bad for him. Like he's like I said, he's going on one like half Achilles and he can't really throw the ball. That's how that goes. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's move on to Notre Dame. We got Riley Leonard and Xavier Watts. I think are the two big ones. Is there anybody else I'm missing?
No, there's no one that I think you're missing. Notre Dame, shockingly, a young team. They've got a lot of young guys that I think are going to come on strong. Oh, well, I mean, he's not playing right now, but oh God, I totally just their corner,
Sure.
Morrison, Benjamin Morrison.
Benjamin Morrison, yeah.
And like he's not playing right now, so like we won't see him in the college football playoff. But basically any team in the top 20 that needs a cornerback, it should draft Benjamin Morrison and not think twice about it because he's to me, he's cornerback 2 behind Will Johnson. Will Johnson's a little bit of a cut above, but Benjamin Morrison's going to be a good player in the NFL. I think the Seahawks make a lot of sense for him, pairing him with Devon Witherspoon. You've seen some excuse me, you've seen some regression behind Devon Witherspoon in that regard. And so like I think that's with Mike McDonald being the head coach now in Seattle, throwing him a bone and getting him another cornerback, I think would make a lot of sense.
For Morrison, I like the Lions. I like the Lions.
Ooh, I like that too.
Like, yeah, again, he's not gonna have to go that far from South Bend to Detroit. So geography, that's not that far away. So I think that would be a good fit. Xavier Watts, I think, is going to be like a 3rd-round pick. He's going to be like a lesser version of like Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. He's just all over the place. He's going to go to a guy who's got a really strong defensive-minded head coach or defensive coordinator. Think of Buffalo. Buffalo might be a great fit for him.
I like Buffalo, and we've seen, they've had some safety attrition there when you watched Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer kind of be phased out, even though I think Micah Hyde is back, if I'm not mistaken. He's just like chilling around there. A team that I had circled was the Dolphins.
Yeah.
When they signed Deshaun Elliott a couple years ago, that really worked well. And Watts is kind of in that same mold. And so, I think that can make a lot of sense for them and you have Vic Fangio. I think that's someone who could absolutely get the best out of Watts.
I like that. And then Riley Leonard, I think it's like a 2nd-round grade sort of thing. So you're looking at a guy, I think he'll do well in the NFL. It's not going to be like a 2nd-round pick. Also, I was thinking about this. I came across a guy, I remember in Dudes, Tyler Bray.
God, yes.
He left after 3 years to declare and didn't get drafted.
Of course, you got to.
Didn't get drafted. What a legend.
There's something to be said for unfailing self-confidence.
Riley Leonard, I think the Jets is a great fit for him.
I like that. Going back to a team that you already mentioned, the Colts. If you want to have some Anthony Richardson insurance, you're worried, and you have an offense designed for Richardson that is designed for someone who you aren't fully trusting to throw the ball. Inserting Riley Leonard in as the backup into that role, he might be actually a better decision maker than that. And so, I think that's something where you're giving yourself 2 potentially good options there.
I bet you he'll have a better pro career than some of the guys taken in the 1st round. We just don't know who that is. So
exactly, 100%.
So that's going to be good. I think that's Notre Dame. Let's move on to Ohio State. So we definitely got to talk about Jack Sawyer and JT, who I can't say his last name.
Yes.
Tui Mulau.
That's close enough, dude. You don't want to hear me try it, I assure you.
And then we've also got Travion Henderson, Quinshaw Judkins, Will Howard, and Egbuka. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Caleb Downs is not yet draft eligible.
Somehow, best safety in college football, but still not draft eligible.
Okay, let's start Will Howard. Will Howard, Dolphins. He's like a Dolphin.
The CFL, get him out of my face.
That's fine. Yeah,
I'm being mean. I'm sorry, but I just can't do it.
I could see him on the Steelers.
I can see that. He's going to get a shot as an NFL backup. There's no question. And the Steelers, I feel like Steelers fans would love him. But whether or not that's me, that's neither here nor there. Steelers fans would love that guy.
Arthur Smith would love that guy.
Oh, 100%. They just sit there and chop it up, talk ball.
Okay, let's go to talking ball, talking about I don't know. FedEx being born on 3rd base.
Logistics, And
logistically speaking, let's put a book on a team. I feel like he's a 1st-round player still.
He should be. Whether or not he is, I don't know, but he absolutely should be. And I selfishly, when I'm looking at what the Cowboys actually need, it's a Emeka Egbuka. The weaponry outside of CeeDee Lamb in the Cowboys offense right now is horrendous. I want them to target someone like Egbuka in the 1st round. I want them to open up the offense for Dak Prescott and allow him, there's been some criticism of Dak for not using CeeDee Lamb as much as he should, but part of that is Cooper Rush is more willing to take that risk and force it into double coverage and force those mistakes, whereas Dak is a much more risk-averse quarterback. And those risks are mitigated when you have another weapon like Emeka Egbuka who's going to take attention off CeeDee Lamb.
I like that a lot. If he does fall down the board a little bit, put him on Baltimore. I think he's perfect for.
Mm,
I think he's perfect for Lamar Jackson, like the perfect kind of like possession receiver that
yeah.
can kind of do a little bit more.
I mean,
Because
I think Igbuka kind of is what they were hoping to get with Rashad Bateman when they took
yeah,
him in the first round.
yeah, they've been chasing Desmond Mason forever,
100%.
and
I
that's
mean,
who.
I always feel bad whenever I put a receiver on Baltimore because they've drafted so many and taken so many bites at the apple at it.
Yeah, I know that'd be tough. Okay, then we got the running backs, Henderson or Judkins. Anything you think that would be that would make sense for either of those players?
I think Henderson's someone who I think would really thrive in Buffalo. I know they have James Cook, but the running back depth there, like they like Ray Davis, but I think like you can't let a good player potentially hold you back from a great player. And I think Travion Henderson is someone you want to manage the workload of because he does have an extensive injury history at this point. But I also think he's someone that you want on your team because when you are managing that workload and when he is on the field, he's special, man. Like he is a special, special talent.
And put Judkins on the Chargers as the ultimate Michigan sleeper agent.
Michigan sleeper agent, plus the fact that Jim Harbaugh, I'm sure, like just absolutely loves Quinshon Judkins, and also like Judkins. Let's be honest about it. He's a guy throughout his Ole Miss and Ohio State career has had some. There have always been some rumblings about him kind of being a locker room problem. You know, he's going to nip that in the bud pretty damn quick as Jim Harbaugh.
100%. And then let's move on to the two guys that really matter for Ohio State. Let's go to Jack Sawyer and JTT. JTT is the guy that needs to come to Atlanta. That's
I
the
like that for y'all. Yeah, 100%. I have him as a speaking of the Chargers because Khalil Mack is a free agent this offseason, so like you're going to need to replace that, and pairing him with Joey Bosa makes a lot of sense.
and then Jack Sawyer, Captain Jack Sawyer. What's he's really annoying. Let's put him on another annoying team.
I have him as the Bengals because right now you have Trey Henderson
Yeah,
and then
I like
a prayer on the edge right now. So like I think pairing Jack Sawyer with Trey Hendrickson, that's a pass rush that's just gonna beat the piss out of you for 60 minutes every Sunday.
yeah, get some big 5-0 energy in there, man. I love
Oh, dude,
that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. That you know what that's great. That was a lot more fun and a lot more in depth than I thought it was going to be, but we did it. And we did it.
Like I said, there was a segment that I spent a lot of my prep time on. This was it.
And on the heels of that, let's talk Portal to me. Yeah, let's
Yes,
move on
sir.
to our fourth topic. Let's talk Portal to me. So a lot of moves here. We're not going to touch on every single one of them, just things that happened. Fernando
No.
Mendoza's going to Indiana. Once again, we failed to read the room, realizing that his brother Alberto was on Indiana too.
That's right.
Eric Singleton Jr., the wide receiver for Georgia Tech, is going to Auburn because he really hates Georgia.
Hmm.
Respect that. Deuce Robinson is going to go from one bad place to another from USC to FSU.
Yeah.
Malik Murphy is allegedly going to Oregon State.
Yes. I think he has signed the paperwork now, so I think we're safe in saying that.
Bear Alexander wants to hang out with Dan Lanning some more, so he's going to Oregon.
Yeah.
Air Noland is flying high to Beamerville there in South Carolina, Sacramento.
Hmm.
Beau Pribula to Mizzou. I really like that one. That's going to be interesting.
I like that one a lot.
Caden Salter to Colorado. Love that.
I love that as well. Going to be interesting to see how Pat Shermer handles Caden Salter, but
Probably the sneakiest one, Dylan Lonergan to Boston College, who I think Bill O'Brien recruited to
Yeah,
Alabama.
100%. That when I saw it pop up, I was like, yeah. Bill knows what he wants, and it's Dylan Lonergan.
Preston Stone Northwestern, we like that one too. And then a wide receiver who was tied to Georgia with Kentucky, Dane Key goes to Nebraska.
So I'll start with the Dane Key transfer. To me, that's not a slight to Georgia. It's a good get for Nebraska. I think Nebraska needs that type of player. Like he was a dude who flashed even with subpar quarterback play at Kentucky. And so now you're going to a place that should be more functional. You should be more of a pro style offense. Like I think that's going to be really good for Nebraska and Raiola's development and Nebraska to potentially take a step forward. For Georgia, though, I don't think it's a big loss. To me, this is a sign that they are one of the front runners for Zachariah Branch.
Yeah.
And that, if you're a Georgia fan, don't be disheartened by the fact that you lost him to Nebraska.
No, I think it's going to come down to Georgia or Oregon for the Branch brothers because,
Mhm.
again, Dante Williams was on the USC staff and
Yeah.
everything like that. So I think that's what it means because Key was crystal ball to Georgia, and then it flipped. And but again, Georgia and Nebraska recruit a lot of the same players too. It's very interesting.
100%. Raiola, for instance.
Yes, Raiola, for example. Eric Gilbert on his fourth team now. Who knows what he's doing?
Nothing good, I can assure you.
We have to do a case study of what happened with him. The quarterback that played for Tennessee and went to UNLV briefly. That was his quarterback, Harrison Bailey. Yeah, who was going on?
Bailey.
What was going on there at the Marietta Blue Devils? But yeah, that was interesting. So looking across the board, any of these let's talk about Pribula, Beau Pribula. Again, he left. He's not on the Penn State program anymore. They put the backup in there and they threw a pick immediately.
Yeah.
Pribula is like, if I go to Mizzou and I get the reps and I go there, like I could lead a playoff caliber team next year. Maybe or maybe not. You are missing Luther in the third. You do have Drink there, but like the starting opportunity is so great. He's ready for it, but obviously with Adler coming back, it wasn't possible. He made a business decision. Seems like everybody in the Penn State locker room liked him. I think Mizzou got a great get there.
Oh no, 100%. And he's a dude that I think when you're losing a Luther Burden, he's kind of the quarterback recruit or the young quarterback that you kind of want to bring in because he can do a lot of different things. Like he was in Penn State's offense, like he would come in and basically be like, the Russian quarterback, kind of the Penn State quarterback of yesteryear with your Sean Cliffords, your not Christian Hackenberg. Who's the other dude that they had that was in the Sean Clifford mold? I'm totally blanking.
Not Trace McSorley. He was different. No.
I was thinking Trace McSorley. That's who I was thinking of. He was still more run-centric than Sean Clifford, but like I don't like either of them throwing the football. And like they kind of put Pribula in there, but Pribula does have that in his arsenal. They just trust Drew Aller to do that a little bit more. So like he's very much a ball of clay that I think Drink can mold the offense around. So like I think it's in the period that Missouri is going to be entering, excuse me. I think it's a really smart get for that program.
I like that one too. Anybody else you want to talk about? Let's talk about Fernando. Let's talk about Fernando Mendoza.
I love that. I mean, I think it's absolutely perfect. It's beyond his brother being in the Indiana program already, like, that probably made it an easier sell being like, yeah, what Coach Sig is selling is not a bad bill of goods. Like this is something that you want to be a part of, but also like, I think my one worry with Indiana and, you come in with year one, you bring Curtis Rourke over, but he's obviously only has 1 year of eligibility left. And so like, are you going to be like always cycling in guys with 1 year of eligibility? Is that going to be a cycle that you have a hard time getting out of? And then you get into a situation where, you miss 1 year and then that cycle kind of gets broken and you're kind of back to being Indiana again. And Fernando Mendoza is someone who I suspect will probably be around for 2 more years and before he heads to the NFL. And so that gives you a little bit of stability and really start to build things up with the Hoosiers.
Yes. It was the thing that kind of initially said like he may not go to Indiana besides how poorly they looked. But then again, they look poorly. Like, okay, maybe I'm going to be a difference maker here. We know Curtis Rourke's going to be off to the CFL or wherever he's going.
Yeah.
Also his brother, Albert. I'm trying to figure like how to say it. Like it's Alberto. Okay, Alberto. We're gonna go in the middle. We're
gonna go 100%. Alberto.
Burton. Yeah, he's gonna be there for 2 years, starting for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Probably gonna be a Heisman finalist at some point.
I could see it, absolutely.
And then the other big thing is I think he's got the potential to be like the next Trent Green at IU.
I like that. Ooh, that's really nice. And like, I mean, he does have NFL potential, and like as good as I think Curtis Rourke is, I think his NFL potential is limited, quite frankly. Like, but Fernando Mendoza, I think the ceiling is higher. You may take a minute to get to that ceiling, but if there's a coaching staff that we can see get a team to its ceiling, I think Indiana proved in year one under Coach Sig that like they are absolutely that program.
He's 6'5", can run a little bit, good arm, dashingly handsome. I mean, like,
dude, yeah, looker. That dude's a looker.
That dude is I'm trying to think like the next Joe Burrow. That's what we're looking at.
100%, yeah.
So the biggest winner here is Fox with Gus Johnson, Fernando.
He's just going to be singing, ABBA and Lady Gaga, whatever Indiana's on the Fox Big Noon.
Yes, Joe Klatt's gonna be like, can we go to Colorado more? And Gus says, who do you want to call this week? Fernando. God, that's a great fit. I like Kaidon Salter as the bridge to Bryce Underwood at Colorado. That's not Bryce Underwood. No,
Juju.
Juju Lewis. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm good. So Juju Lewis from Carrollton, Georgia. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sitting here and like Juju Lewis. Yes, Bryce Underwood's gone to Michigan. There we go.
Yeah, Michigan. I'll throw a bit of a dose of negativity in here. I like the Caden Salter. I am worried about he's a very different quarterback than Shador, so like the offense is going to change. But I think we kind of knew that was going to happen when you're losing Travis Hunter as well. Like the offense is going to change. I don't get the Air Nolan to South Carolina. I truly
No,
don't. Like Lenora Sellers is a young player still. I think has 2-3 years of eligibility left. So like he's going to be there for a while. I truly don't understand that. Like Aaron Nolan's talented, and I'm not trying to disparage the kid, but you're not beating out Lenore Sellers for the starting job. So like I don't know what you're doing with that decision if you're Nolan.
I would have gone to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, 100%. Like I just don't I don't know. It just doesn't compute with me. And maybe I'm proven wrong. Like I'm with the transfer portal always open to be proven wrong because it's happened a bunch of times. But like I just as of right now, looking at the situation with Lenore Sellers securing the bag, I mean, maybe if you're Shane Beamer, maybe it is, insurance for yourself. Maybe, you secured the bag for Lenore Sellers this year. Maybe he goes out and he's a Heisman finalist next year and you can't quite secure the bag and he wants to go somewhere else. Then you have Aaron Nolan waiting in the wings. So maybe that's part of it. But in terms of if you're Noland looking for opportunities, I don't understand it.
No, I think it's got to be insurance purposes. Maybe it's a guy that he recruited out of high school too. So again, that's a very interesting fit. The three receivers we have on here of note with Dane Key going to Nebraska, Deuce Robinson going to FSU, and Eric Singleton Jr. going to Auburn. I think that improves all three teams' receiving cores to varying degrees, some considerably, some, but like it helps these three teams all Nebraska stay a bowl team, Auburn get to be one, FSU not be hellacious ass.
Yeah.
So
Win more than 2 games. That's the ideal we're looking for.
yeah, and then I think every single one of them, like you're going to a place where like there's a quarterback. It's going to be like Eric Singleton Jr. is like, okay, Jackson Arnold's throwing me the ball, and
Yeah. And
Deuce
Deuce Knight
Robinson,
behind him too. Like
yes,
you're set up nicely there.
and Deuce Robinson. Speaking of deuces, just
Yeah.
you've got Thomas Castellanos throwing you the ball now, and then I think what was the other one you had on there? Dylan Raiola, Dane Key throwing the ball. Dylan Raiola throwing the
Yeah.
ball. Dane Key.
Yeah. So you're in a night like I like all three of those decisions. And like I gotta tell you, Bueller, I'm dangerously close to being high on Auburn going into next year, and that scares the hell out of me.
I was, and I got burned. So
I
that's what
know.
happened.
I was tepid. I said, let's give it some time. But I'm about to be in your shoes next year and just holding my breath.
Yes, we touched on this previously. We think the Barry Alexander fit to Oregon makes sense because of the Dan Lanning recruitment. We touched on that briefly. Best of luck for him. I think that'll work out.
I mean, like we give Bear Alexander a lot of flack, and I think deservedly so, considering how much time he spent in the transfer portal. But like, let's be honest, he's still a talented player. Like he's still a good football player.
100%. So he's good, talented guy. Likes collecting jerseys. There's gonna be a lot of jerseys to collect at Oregon. Let's talk on the two quarterbacks we haven't touched on much yet with Malik Murphy going to Oregon State and Preston Stone going to Northwestern.
Yeah.
Preston Stone Northwestern. I love that. I think it basically helps get Northwestern to be because again under Pat Fitzgerald they would like every 3 years they have a really, really great year, but like the recruiting resources now they built the stadium to basically keep up with the Big Ten. And first off, I know the academic stuff is like whatever, like you can get people at school, like don't
Yeah.
ever summon that. It's keeping them there. That's the problem.
100%. I mean, like Preston Stone as a player reminds me a lot of a Clayton Thorson if we're talking
Yeah.
Northwestern quarterbacks. So like I love the fit. I think it makes perfect sense for what we've seen have success at Northwestern.
Definitely, totally, absolutely. And then Malik Murphy to Oregon State. Trent Bray making me a believer at Beavtown.
Yeah.
I think just a slightly better quarterback play, the transitional period there for Oregon State allows for Trent Bray to focus on his side of the ball defense, kind of build a culture around that. Maybe that's a pathway forward for them. And they're in a better spot than Washington State, who I don't know if they've hired a coach yet.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. They didn't hire one on Christmas Day yesterday, so like I know that didn't happen. But yeah, I mean like if you're an Oregon State fan, you've got to be high on this, especially as, the Pac-12 is in the midst of reforming. So like, it's someone that can potentially lead you into that new league, even if he doesn't stick around for the entirety of being in that new league, but he can lead you into it with momentum.
100%. And we're leading into our next topic here, penultimate topic with Pat the Doc with some momentum too, because that's what we need to do. Uh, Jargonese doesn't do it for me, and that's probably my greatest skill. It's
Yeah.
all right. So the NCAA does not want to give people who've played junior college like Diego Pavia opportunities to come back.
Mhm.
And the courts are saying like this is the courts are basically going to win here because like the junior college component is different from what I recall of like transferring. It's like they're punished more than people who got into FBS out of high school. Is essentially what it came down to. So it will allow Diego Pavia to have another year of eligibility.
Yeah, so like my understanding and like I understand if you're on the anti, not Diego Pavia, but if you're on the anti, being granted this extra year of eligibility, I do understand where you're coming from because it does create a slippery slope. Like, let's say you're in Alabama or you're these programs that historically we've seen take advantage of loopholes and rules when it comes to recruiting. And you know that if you send a kid to JUCO that he's still going to have an extra year of eligibility. He's still going to have 4 years of eligibility once he comes to the FBS ranks. Why? Like maybe there's a kid that doesn't really have a spot on your roster right now, but you can promise him, hey, we'll 1.5x whatever we were going to give you in NIL for 2026 instead of coming to 2025. You go spend 2025 at a JUCO. Like those rules can be exploited, and so like I understand the trepidation behind that and why you would not want that to happen. At the same time, for someone like Diego Pavia, who was not like that wasn't a concern when he was going into the JUCO ranks, like that he was just trying to go play football and prove himself, and so he could make the jump to FBS eventually. And so, like in the case of a Diego Pavia, I think like I think it'd be asinine to not do that because especially in the NIL era, like in JUCO, you're not really eligible to earn NIL. You're not, having any earnings potential there as a college football player. And so, like as we're in this new era, like if someone because of academics because of whatever the case is maybe under recruited in an area of the country that's just not recruited at the level that a Florida, Texas, and these other big recruiting hotbeds are, like putting those kids in the best position to financially succeed, I think is important. Like I think that's something we need to do to protect our student athletes. So I think like it's a slippery slope, but I still probably come down on the side where I'm always going to come down to, which is the player side, which is protecting these kids.
Well, I think about like this. So I may be wrong here, but like I recall plenty of times, like before all this, like a guy would play a year or two of JUCO,
Mhm.
and then the red shirt counts double. So they really only get 3 years of ball to play. I don't know exactly why that was the case, but it seemed to be. Whereas like it had become far more. It seems like far more punitive now
Yeah.
than what it is now in regular college football, where you've got guys like Alan Bowman getting like 8 years of eligibility if they want it. And he's like, "No, dude, I'm out." I mean, I've been playing since Obama was in office.
It's time to get a job.
It's time to get a job. Yeah. But there's also guys out there who like use the junior college route initially. The guys who they may not be pro players, but they're fun as all college players. That's Diego Pavia, that was Bo Wallace, that was Chad Kelly to some extent. They were fun and they used this opportunity to their advantage. You kind of wonder if Chad Kelly or Bo Wallace. Well, Bo Wallace is really beat up, but like,
Yeah. I mean, like Cam Scatabo, like he played at the
yeah,
FCS level, but I mean, like he's close to that JUCO level. You know what I mean? Like that's guys who are going to a Sacramento State, like they're on the fringes of going to play JUCO ball essentially. And so, like, you're hindering guys who have untapped potential, who have the ability to potentially like make something quite impressive for themselves. Which Diego Pavia and Cam Scatabo, those are the outliers. Like those are the high end outliers, no doubt about it. But at the same time, like we see those guys every year. We see those stories every single year. And so, like, if you're hindering those guys from staying in college football, and frankly, if you're the NCAA, improving your product, like having like another year of Diego Pavia, you know what that's good for? The college football fan, because watching Diego Pavia is fun as hell.
yeah. You also think about guys from like yesteryear who had to play junior college. Julian Edelman had to play junior college, and he had
Hmm.
to basically fight for Kent State, just trying to get through a bowl game. He was a seventh round pick by the Patriots. Obviously, his career worked out wonderfully for him, but like maybe his entry point in the NFL is different. Josh Heupel like had to play junior college coming out of South Dakota, under recruited, left-handed. Then he goes to Oklahoma. If he had one more year, maybe he's more than just like, a practice squad guy there for the Dolphins. So maybe he has a longer career than that.
No, 100%. Like it's unfortunate that the JUCO ranks have been a hindrance, quite frankly, to players' careers over the years. And like, like you just said, some players have been able to overcome that, but I think it would be I personally fall on the side of, with where we head from here, that we go in a direction where these players are given more opportunities to make a name for themselves, make money off of their name, image, and likeness, and move forward in a more positive direction where you're not having to overcome as much as a Julian Edelman did, quite frankly.
100%. I'll tie a bow on this perfectly. Look, with COVID, we all lost a year of our life in various aspects.
Yes.
These kids lost a year of high school or college or time to socialize. So people say, oh, you're 24 years in college. I'm like, yeah, well, at 17, they were stuck in a garage and couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I was stuck up in Chicago. It probably prevented you for a year from getting hired full time. Like this is how it goes. Like try to get a year back. And if this is a way to do that, and it doesn't matter if like these guys are older and playing, like it makes the level of competition better. This could probably open up opportunities for like, okay, this guy's here. Maybe it makes the other schools at FBS who are smaller, fill out the rosters a little more, help them catch up.
Yeah.
We may end up seeing more dominant teams there at Sam Houston or Kennesaw or Delaware or New Mexico State, like because of COVID.
Hey, Delaware's about to be FBS, man. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, have it'll trickle down more kind of in a positive way. I understand that former Georgia and UAB linebacker, who's a high school coach, hates this because it basically prevents people, unless they're at the very top of the echelon, like people that are like group of five, like they're not recruiting people at high school. They're just recruiting people out of the portal.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think everything in college football right now is just so we're just in such uncharted territory that we're trying to make it up as we go. And like, this will never happen. And to be clear, I know this is not based in reality, but like what college football honestly needs more than anything is a year off. So like everyone can just sort this S out and just like figure out where we go from here. Because right now we're trying to do it on the fly and it's not being successful, quite frankly.
No, we got to get scheduling and conference size uniformity. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is it 18 teams? Is it 20 teams? Is it 24 teams?
Yeah. Like, are we going to go to Super League and have relegation and whatnot? Like where are we going with this? Because right now, like it feels like a coin flip every single day that we're going to have something that like dramatically changes the sport that may not have the thought behind it that it needs.
I almost feel like you're going to have a 13th game in a weird way.
Yeah, 100%.
And talk about the 13th game and the 13th hole. Yes, we're going to move on to Bowling with Antonio. So we're going to recap 4 games and we're going to preview 4 games with Antonio and get out of here because Cody and I got to work today.
That's right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. It'd be like that. So we're going to recap the New Orleans Bowl, the Gasparilla Bowl, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and the Hawaii Bowl. So New Orleans Bowl, Sam Houston beat Georgia Southern. We were on the wrong side of that in New Orleans. I blame Antonio for this entirely. He created a scene on the field, and it resulted in a penalty, and somebody fought somebody, and that basically allowed Georgia Southern to win. Or Sam Houston to win. That's what happened.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other factor that we got to consider is, I think Clay Helton might low key be one of Antonio's favorites. Like, and I think he may have distracted Coach there a little bit.
Gravy, yes.
Gravy, Gravy Clay.
So after hanging out with Gravy Clay, we went down to Gasparilla Bowl, and my sister and brother-in-law were at a wedding there in Tampa, and they saw him leading a parade there with the greenies because no Bulldog Gators. So he was all about Tulane, and he brought the New Orleans with him to Tampa Bay.
He brings the New Orleans wherever he goes. Let's be real. Come on.
And you would think that the people in Tulane were like used to that. They were not. They got smoked.
I mean, shouts to Ty Thompson, who Antonio had a really hard time believing was an actual college football player, which, I have frankly might agree with him on that point at this point.
The other thing is, we had to get out of there pretty quickly. He thought that the 450-pound line meat factory there for Florida, as the fullback, he rode him like a bulldog, one of those Wyoming Moose Bulldogs.
The Wyoming Moose. Yes, of course. The Bulldogs with horns.
Bulldog Accord.
Bulldog Accord. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Florida won that game 33-8. And then we went to the Myrtle Beach Bowl where the Roadrunners beat Coastal Carolina 44-15. You were absolutely right. The amateur tattoo artist had a time.
They Antonio's body is his canvas, and he tried to make that very clear, but I think Coastal Carolina was more interested in giving those amateur tattoos than playing football on that day.
Yeah, I know. Antonio, he went nuts that day, and we're gonna have to give him a new body because we told him, this is permanent. He's like, Bulldog.
Bulldog. Yeah. And honestly, the really crappy Suicide Squad remake that they did with Jared Leto's Joker, and he just has like ha 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 tattooed over there. It's just Bulldog, Bulldog, Bulldog on Antonio's body.
Yeah, he writes Antonio on his. He was just doing Antonio tattoos like it was Melanie Griffith. He just
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he can't spell. He can just write his name, and that's it.
That's right.
That's the thing about him. He just traces like a coloring book, basically.
Yeah, 100, and does not stay in the lines.
Not at all. And speaking about not staying in the lines, South Florida and San Jose State went to overtime with South Florida winning 41-39. And the Hawaii Bowl, Antonio absolutely got laid.
Oh, 100% got laid. I did not personally, just because as someone who on the Stacking the Box College Football Edition had the under in this game, I was feeling great. The total was at 62.5 when I took the under, and we're sitting there in the final possession with the game at 27-24. I'm thinking I'm gravy, there's no way. And then we go to overtime and I got absolutely screwed. So I'm gonna be honest with you, Buhler. Me and Antonio, we got into a heated conversation about it, and I was like, I told him, to go kick pineapple, and he said bulldog.
He did. He also learned that Floyd Pig, so he was trying to eat pigs. And last thing I saw, he was wearing a Speedo and a lei with a pineapple and stuck in both of his hands, riding around like he's flying, but he's chewing on the ass of a pig, the wild boar on an island.
Hey, you gotta. At least that's a tasty part of the pig.
It is a tasty part of the pig, and we have four more games today. We got one coming up. We got one today. We got the Arkansas State versus Bowling Green in the 68 Ventures Bowl down in Mobile, and the biscuit song is "Break Stuff," and Antonio is going to be dressing like Fred Durst.
Oh yeah, of course you have to. Got to get the really crappy hat going on. As someone who loves a hat, let me go ahead and tell you, Fred Durst collection, not exactly ones that I want to be adding to my collection. Yeah, we saw what happened with Antonio in Birmingham, and I'm terrified of what's going to happen in Mobile.
Like we're spending a lot of time in
Why are there so
Alabama.
many bowl games in the state of Alabama? That's my question.
So we've been to Montgomery, we're going to Mobile, we're going to Birmingham, probably possibly twice.
Oh God.
If there was a Huntsville Bowl, we'd go there too, or the Tuscaloosa Bowl, but they would never let anybody besides Alabama play in that stadium. But yeah, Arkansas State versus Bowling Green. I think this is all about. Antonio wants to hang out with Harold Fannin, and he wants to mess with Butch Jones. Is basically what he told me.
Yeah, 100%. So Harold Fannin is, I believe, 18 yards away from the all-time tight end receiving record. So he wants to try and break that. And Antonio is going to give him a pregame motivational speech. So I wouldn't bank on Harold Fannin getting that record because of that.
No, and for that reason, I'm going to pick Arkansas State to win, and I want Butch Jones up parade on the field and crying like a buffoon in the rain.
Yeah, I mean, if I can see Butch Jones cry over something that doesn't matter, that's what I want. So give me the Red Wolves.
And that's why it's break stuff, because like he's breaking down and crying.
100%. Breaking down his emotions.
All right, and then we are staying in the state of Alabama for the 27th. We're going to the Birmingham Bowl for Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. The song is ready to go, and Antonio is dressing like the Roman god Vulcan with like the mock and the assless chaps.
I mean, look, this is a dream game for Antonio. He loves the bees. It's one of the only things he can say other than bulldog is bees, and that's just because it's one letter. And obviously he loves Clark Lee and he loves Barton Simmons and he loves Diego Pavia. So like although we are staying in the state of Alabama, much to my chagrin, he's very excited for this one.
He loves Alabama more than Leonard Skinner, dude.
Apparently, sweet home.
Where are you leaning for this game?
I'm going with the bees. I don't want to go against our king on this program, Diego Pavia, but Vanderbilt is still pretty banged up. Vanderbilt's had a lot of attrition, and I think Georgia Tech might just be a little bit too much for them with their with Haynes King and the rushing attack.
Give me the bees as well. I think that Georgia Tech's gonna be really good next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got two more. We got a Pop-Tart Bowl on the 28th. We're going to Orlando for Iowa State at Miami. The song is Nookie because Nookie is like cookie in Pop-Tart.
100%. Yeah, three flavors. Antonio is hyped that he gets to choose which flavor he's going to eat. This is the fine print of the Pop-Tart Bowl. Whatever two Pop-Tarts are not chosen to be eaten by the winning team, Antonio is actually going to eat them. So he's hoping that he gets the right ones.
He's dressing up as a wild berry blue Pop-Tart.
Of course, got to.
And he wants to go in the thing. And I'm like, Antonio, you're gonna melt. He's just like, okay,
Bulldog.
bye.
Bulldog.
Okay, bye.
That's right.
Iowa State, Miami. First off, I think so. Matt Campbell only eats the non-frosted Pop-Tarts, and Mario's never had one before, or he can't open the sleeve. He
I
just
don't know.
eats it
See,
all.
I could see Mario, like, I don't know if you saw the report a couple weeks ago about like the amount of Uncrustables the NFL team eats. I can see Mario like slamming Pop-Tarts like they're Uncrustables, quite frankly.
Yes, I can see that. Is Cam Ward playing this game?
Yeah, apparently everyone's playing in this game. I like the over for sure because it's a Miami football game, and so take the over. But I think I'm going to go with Miami with Cam Ward playing in this game.
Yeah, I got two teams playing with a lot of passion and energy after some really tough ends this season. Miami lost to Syracuse and Iowa State missed out in the playoff because it was in Arizona State. Again, they're one game away from being in the playoffs, so they're playing for the Pop-Tart Bowl. I love that. You take like you take like basically the best team who's not making the playoff out of the Big 12 and the ACC, and you put them in Orlando.
Yeah,
Give me the Canes here because it's all about the U, and
the U,
Antonio
baby.
is going to be a Pop-Tart.
That's right.
And then after we peel the rest of Antonio's remaining amateur tattooed artist skin off the ground, we're going to see some more Iowa football on the 30th. We're going to be going to Music City, Nashville for the Music City Bowl between Iowa and Missouri. The song is "Turn It Up, Betch."
I mean, yeah, because it's a birthday party. It's Nashville. We're going to another birthday party, like always, and excited for this one. Antonio in Nashville is a different beast. You think New Orleans Antonio is something special? Nah, it's nothing compared to Nashville Antonio.
Nashville, Vegas. He's more Vegas and Nashville than Wayne Newton.
100%, yeah.
Take the under.
Oh, the under for sure, brother.
And I'm taking Iowa because that's what Iowa plays every bowl game here. They usually play Kentucky here.
So I'm actually going Missouri because I think the shine that we saw early from Iowa's offense has worn off a little bit, and I don't have faith in it.
Yeah. So yeah, and also we're gonna see Tony wants to hang out with Drink there. They're gonna get matching tattoos.
Oh, 100%. It's probably going to be like a Morgan Wallen tattoo.
No, it's gonna be right in the ribs. It's gonna be Romeo save me.
Love story, baby.
But it says Antonio save me.
Antonio saved me and Eli saved me.
And Eli's like, there's more letters to that too. And he's like, have you ever actually heard his name pronounced as Elijah? I don't think I've ever heard it that way.
I've literally quite frankly, I was stunned when it wasn't just Eli. I thought it was just Eli. I thought that was his name.
I spell it out Elia every time, but I always say Eli. So it's crazy. And what's crazy is this was episode 137, I think. Was that what I had down the list?
138? I don't know.
138 of False Start. Yes, you can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter, the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at TheSizzle20. You can follow the show at CFP False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. give us a 5-star review on Apple. Really helps out the show. Yes, YouTube's been growing great. We're eventually going to have other guests on here. It's starting to slow down a little bit here, but really, we're going to basically in February figure some stuff out and have a really cool, interesting, fun off season here. But yeah, the holidays have been crazy. I forget. I don't even know what bed I'm sleeping in anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah, I flip a coin and we figure it out.
Flip a coin and figure it out. Oh man. I'm trying to think how to even end this show here, but she's a brick and I'm drowning slowly, and this is false start.